Welcome to On This Day, the channel that brings you the most significant events and famous birthdays that happened on this day throughout history. In this episode, we're going to take a journey through time and explore the events that occurred on April 4th. From monumental moments in history to noteworthy individuals, we'll cover it all. But that's not all. In addition to discussing the events that occurred on this day, we'll also be highlighting some of the most notable people born on April 4th. You might be surprised to learn who shares a birthday with you or someone you know. So, whether you're a history buff, a curious learner, or simply interested in the stories of the past, this is the perfect channel for you. If you enjoy this content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an episode of On This Day. Let's dive in and explore the fascinating events and people that shaped April 4th. The First Crusade is declared by Pope Eugene III, 1147. The Crusades were a series of religious wars that took place between the 11th and 13th centuries. The First Crusade was called by Pope Urban II in 1095, and it aimed to recapture the Holy Land from the Muslims. The Crusaders were driven by religious zeal and promised eternal salvation to those who fought in the Holy War. The First Crusade was not an easy undertaking, and it faced many challenges along the way. In 1147, Pope Eugene III called for another crusade, hoping to recapture the city of Edessa, which had been lost to the Muslims. This time, the crusade was led by two powerful monarchs, King Louis VII of France and Emperor Conrad III of Germany. The Crusaders set out on their journey, facing difficult terrain and fierce resistance from the Muslims. They arrived in Constantinople, where they were welcomed by Emperor Manuel I Comnenus, who promised them help in exchange for their support in his war against the Turks. The Crusaders then continued their journey towards the Holy Land, where they engaged in battles with the Muslims. The First Crusade was a turning point in the history of Christianity and Islam. It marked the beginning of a long period of conflict between the two religions and had far-reaching consequences for the entire world. Today, we remember this historic event and the brave men who fought in the name of their faith. The North Atlantic Treaty is signed in Washington, D.C., forming the NATO alliance, 1949. On this day, the North Atlantic Treaty was signed in Washington, D.C., forming the NATO alliance. After World War II, tensions between the Soviet Union and Western nations began to rise. Many Western nations felt threatened by the Soviet Union's expansionist policies and feared that another war was on the horizon. In response to these concerns, several Western nations formed the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, as a defensive alliance against potential Soviet aggression. The original signatories to the NATO treaty were the United States, Canada, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, France, Italy, Portugal, Norway, Denmark, and Iceland. Later, Greece, Turkey, Germany, and Spain joined the alliance as well. The NATO treaty established a system of collective defense, stating that an attack against one member state would be considered an attack against all member states. This principle has been tested several times over the years, most notably during the Cold War when tensions between NATO and the Soviet Union were at their highest. Today, NATO remains a crucial alliance for many Western nations, providing a framework for defense and cooperation in an increasingly complex geopolitical landscape. Civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. is assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, sparking riots and protests across the United States, 1968. On this day, April 4, 1968, a tragedy shook the United States, as civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. His death sparked a wave of riots and protests across the country, as people mourned the loss of a leader who had dedicated his life to fighting for racial equality and justice. The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. was a turning point in the civil rights movement, as it not only marked the loss of a great leader, but also exposed the deep-seated racism and inequality that still plagued the country. Martin Luther King Jr. was a visionary leader who believed in nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience as a means to bring about change. He led the Montgomery bus boycott, organized the March on Washington, and played a key role in the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. His death was a huge blow to the civil rights movement and to the country as a whole. However, his legacy lives on, as his message of equality and justice continues to inspire people around the world. As we remember the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. on this day, we must continue to fight for the causes he believed in and work towards a more just and equal society for all. William Henry Harrison, the 9th President of the United States, dies from pneumonia just 31 days into his presidency, making his the shortest term in U.S. history, 1841. The year was 1841, and the United States was in a state of shock and confusion. Just 31 days into his presidency, William Henry Harrison, the 9th President of the United States, had died from pneumonia. Harrison's untimely death made him the first U.S. president to die in office, and his brief tenure in the White House marked the shortest term of any president in U.S. history. Born in 1773 in Virginia, Harrison was a veteran of the Indian Wars and the War of 1812. He was also the first presidential candidate to campaign actively for the office, traveling the country and delivering speeches to large crowds. Despite his efforts, however, Harrison's presidency was cut short by his sudden illness. Harrison's death created a constitutional crisis, as it was unclear who should succeed him as president. In the end, Vice President John Tyler took the oath of office and became the 10th President of the United States, setting a precedent for future presidential succession. Harrison's death also highlighted the importance of public health and the need for presidents and other high-ranking officials to take care of their health. Today, the legacy of William Henry Harrison serves as a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of strong leadership in times of crisis. Francis Drake is knighted by Queen Elizabeth I aboard the Golden Hind at Deptford, becoming the first Englishman to circumnavigate the globe, 1581. On April 4, 1581, an English adventurer named Francis Drake made history as the first Englishman to circumnavigate the globe. Queen Elizabeth I knighted Drake aboard his ship, the Golden Hind, at Deptford upon his return from the epic journey. Drake had set sail on December 13, 1577, with 5 ships and 164 men, embarking on a voyage that would take over 3 years to complete. Drake had been commissioned by Queen Elizabeth I to explore the Pacific Ocean, find a trade route to the Far East, and claim new territories for England. Along the way, he encountered a number of challenges, including storms, shipwrecks, and attacks by hostile natives. But he also discovered new lands, such as the west coast of North America and the Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America. One of the most dramatic moments of Drake's voyage occurred in the Pacific Ocean, when he reached the Philippines and engaged in a battle with Spanish forces. Drake emerged victorious, capturing a Spanish galleon loaded with silver and other treasures. The haul was so great that it took Drake and his men several days to transfer it all to the Golden Hind. Upon his return to England, Drake was hailed as a national hero and was knighted by Queen Elizabeth I. He went on to play a significant role in the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 and continued his explorations until his death in 1596. Today, Drake is remembered as one of the greatest adventurers in English history, and his voyage around the world remains an inspiration to explorers and adventurers around the globe. Notable people born on April 4. Thaddeus Stevens, 1792, American lawyer and politician who was a fierce opponent of slavery and played a key role in the Reconstruction era. Muddy Waters, 1915, American blues musician who helped popularize the electric blues sound and influenced many rock and roll legends. Robert Downey Jr., 1965, American actor known for his roles in Iron Man, Sherlock Holmes, and Chaplin, among others. David Blaine, 1973, American illusionist and endurance artist known for his street magic performances and feats of endurance, such as being buried alive and standing on a pillar for 35 hours. Eric Andre, 1983, American stand-up comedian, actor, producer, television host and writer. He is best known as the creator, host, and co-writer of the Adult Swim comedy series, The Eric Andre Show. Heath Ledger, 1979 to 2008. Was an Australian actor and music video director. His work consisted of 20 films, including 10 Things I Hate About You, The Patriot, A Knight's Tale, The Dark Knight, Monsters Ball, Lords of Dogtown, Brokeback Mountain, and more. Maya Angelou, 1928 to 2014, was an American memoirist, popular poet, and civil rights activist. She published 7 autobiographies, 3 books of essays, several books of poetry, and is credited with a list of plays, movies, and television shows spanning over 50 years. As we conclude this video, we hope you have enjoyed learning about the significant events that took place on this day throughout history. From the declaration of the First Crusade in 1147 to the tragic assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968, April 4th has been a day of both triumphs and tragedies. We have also celebrated the birth of famous individuals who have contributed greatly to society, from Maya Angelou to Robert Downey Jr. We encourage you to continue exploring the past and gaining knowledge about our world's history. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next On This Day video.